Caya is not a person anyone can overlook lightly, despite her small size of only mid of 1.6 meter or 5 foot 4. She appears bigger and more impressive for everyone on the first sight. Long red hair that frames a very defined and particularly beautiful face falls long over her shoulders, and her skin seems to be drawn into this world. She is obviously from the southern lands, and even for these people, her skin tone is dark, indicating a lot of time in the sunlight. She usually wears long and colorful robes, indicating her profession as a magician. On a closer look, she proudly displays her seal to be the one of the University of Al-Anfa in the palm of her left hand. Caya obviously puts a lot of work into her looks. The hair is always properly brushed and washed, and she usually spends the evenings removing unwanted body hair. Caya usually causes two different reactions with strangers. They are either in awe of her appearance and the aura of power that surrounds her, or they are repelled by the obvious display of power and heritage, because Caya does not hide the fact where she is from, and her origin certainly has a certain reputation in the lands of the north, as Al-Anfa is known for slavery, debauchery, and brutality. Caya did grow up in comparably simple surroundings. Her parents ran a shop for quality stationery for the university, and would it not have been for a special deal her father struck with the administration, the young girl certainly could not have done the education as she did. But since money was not the main issue at the time, she was free from the usual social struggle students of her descent have at the school, and she blossomed into a very capable magician, showing serious talent when using her power against the will of people who are fooled by her beauty or mistake her to be weak. Caya always played by the rules of the school. Nevertheless, it was the rules of the schools of Al-Anfa, which means no more and no less that she learned how to bend the rules, invent new ones, or use the existing rules to her advantage. She became so good at this game that it was possible for her to skip an important examination by handing in a combination of smaller works before, causing the headmaster at the time to change those rules so nobody can exploit those ever again. She enjoyed her time at the school, since her capabilities and connections she was able to build over the year made her life very enjoyable and particularly easy, and she decided that she wanted to get into a very comfortable research position at the school, which would allow her to enjoy quite an easy life. But fate had different plans, and she did not only make friends during the time, and it is unknown how it happened, but Caya got fired. After only 2 days, she had to leave the university and became a persona non grata at the university. She departed Al-Anfa with a deep grudge towards the person who got her thrown out, and planned an expedition to the islands in the south to make some money. But her ship got assaulted by Thorvalian pirates, who even for their sort were extremely ruthless. Their captain, Icar Goranson, made her his personal slave, subduing her magical talents with a combination of iron shackles and drugs. It was not until 2 years ago that she was eventually freed by another Thorvalian expedition, including the couple of Torfin and Shireen, who beheaded the captain inside of the exhausted and humiliated Caya, causing a deep bond of thankfulness and debt between the two women. Caya managed to write a letter to her parents, assuring them that she is well and alive. There was no answer so far. Due to her being fired from the university, she does not have nor desire any connections to these people as of now. She, however, plans to change this once her debts are paid and she consolidated her power. With no employment and a deep personal debt to two adventurers, she took up this activity and traveled north with the group for quite a while. Stumbling upon certain old secrets and legends, she deems this a proper way to gain more power and resources, to eventually seek her revenge. With this plan, she is not in a hurry, planning more or less 10 years ahead. Caya did a couple of business trips during her childhood with her father to the bigger cities of the south, Kunchum, Brabak and Mirham. During the time of her school, she took several trips into the jungle for research purposes. As a slave on board of the Terror of the Southern Seas, she visited a lot of smaller pirate ports in the south, but never really saw the settlements, since she was mostly drugged, chained, or otherwise incapacitated. Caya grew up in Al-Anfa, worshipping Boron according to the rites of the city. However, her slavery estranged her from the gods, and she is yet to find the trust in them again. As a magician, Caya is an expert of the arcane forces. She sees the forces as a natural resource that only few people can ever use properly. She considers everything else but the scientific approach to magic as a hobby, and does not have a huge respect for other magical traditions. She is curious, though, to adapt those hobbyist approaches to ritual magic to her own style, and of course at some point use those forces to take sweet, cruel, and possibly very painful revenge to those people who tried to keep her away from the good life at the university. Caya would try not to risk her life for anyone. If at all, she would do this to repay Shireen for her rescue. Caya wants to live a quiet life with books and servants and enough resources. This life has been taken from her, and her desire is to get it back. So her current plans evolve around this activity and the possibility to retire as an arcane scientist while she is not too old. Slavery. 2 years as the personal slave of a ruthless Thorvalian left some scars on her body, but more so on her soul. Being incarcerated, bound, or even on board a ship sometimes causes her to freeze or get anxiety attacks. The only person who knows about this is Shireen. Caya has no love for rules or moral. There is no good and evil, there is only power and those too weak to seek it. But of course she knows about being overpowered, of course she knows about cruelty, and she has no love for slavery whatsoever. Although she grew up in a society where this is normal, she will not advocate slavery at all anymore. She accepts this as a reality, but will always try to mess with slave hunters. Caya is very careful when it comes to meeting new people. She always suspects from them what she used to be like. Everyone is just looking for a weak spot to gain an advantage. That also means she's very careful about what she is telling others about herself or her former life. This might be considered rude by others, and there have been situations where she was already getting into physical confrontations during her adventure time in Thorval. Caya values her own life, of course, but she basically sees the life itself as just an episode on this plane of existence. You can plan in this episode, and you can enjoy it. And that is what she does. Other people's lives are their own problems, especially if people decide to mess with her plans or attack her otherwise. Caya knows, however, that other people value their own lives and will sometimes use this as a base for negotiation. She is not interested in killing, but she does know a whole lot of ways to end other people's lives. Animals are mostly vermin or tools. They are dirty and annoying. Caya is very aware of how she appears to others. She does like to play with her beauty to lure others into vulnerable positions and, of course, gain advantages in trading, negotiations, or even combat situations. She admires beauty in all other forms as well, be it music, literature, or fancy buildings. And, of course, she likes to look at beautiful people. Caya has adopted a very simple lifestyle in this regard. After 2 years of slavery, she is used to eat what is available and drink water mostly. She despises alcohol after her experience of being drugged with the fire of prem and other substances for such a long time. Her favorite food used to be caramelized shrimps, which she used to have at the academy, but those have not been available to her in years. This is a very complicated chapter in her life. Caya is aware of her beauty and plays the desirable person, but she hates all human contact after the events with the pirates. She had been used for pleasure by a Thorvalian over years and did things while being intoxicated which she normally would have not done. This is the reason why she does not seek out any romantic contacts. Although she plays with that image, she would never hook up with a random contact. Thorfinn got to acknowledge this in a very humiliating way, finding himself naked in the streets of Thorval after he tried to hit on her. The entire story around what happened at the university is a dark secret which Caya will not talk about with outsiders. Not even Shireen knows what went down and led to Caya being fired. It is obvious that she was framed by a competitor. A young mage named Valerius Bespan aimed for her position and hired an assassin to kill a member of the school staff, which was unfortunately successful. With planted evidence, it was possible for him to blame these events on Caya, and even though she was able to convince important people in the university that she was not involved, it was not enough to make the evidence go away, and so she had to leave the city. Caya is intelligent, very calm, and seemingly friendly. She can be furious at times when something is not going according to her plans or if people display complete ignorance. She might seem flirtatious at first, but that is only a phase hiding careful planning and calculations. She will never attack on sight and always try to estimate her opponents before taking any action.